time for some motivation, and for that we've got Edememe Oladiji Wusu. She is a vibrant force in the empowerment space, committed to transforming lives through impactful speaking, coaching, and training programs. She's got a genuine passion for empowering individuals, especially women, and she has a proven track record of transformative outcomes. Well, today on Motivation, we'll be discussing building confidence. Watch your inner dialogue. Good to have you in the studio with us.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. Good morning.
Good morning. Awesome. So, confidence for many people, for me, I've always believed that people don't even understand what confidence actually means, because you hear, you're not confident, you're not confident. But could you really break that down for us so people can even understand? From your perspective, what would you say confidence is?
Okay. I'll say that confidence is a belief in oneself to do something or achieve something regardless of the obstacles. So it's not something just fuzzy, oh, I'm confident today. What are you confident in? In your ability to do something or in, say, someone else's ability to do something for you. But the underlying is belief in ability to do something or achieve something regardless of the obstacles, because there will be obstacles, but how persistent are you? How much do you believe that you deserve that thing, and how much are you willing to go after that thing? Yeah,
now, on the other hand, there's the inner dialogue.
Yes.
Now, many people have that inner dialogue. In fact, they say everyone has an inner dialogue. Usually, most people don't even realize the effect and the influence of their inner dialogue on their lives. So when you talk about inner dialogue, what angle are you coming from?
Okay. By inner dialogue, I mean the conversations that we have with ourselves. Because you're right, we always have these conversations. And what we think are our thoughts are actually our inner dialogues. That's you speaking to yourself, but only you can hear it. And we all have that inner dialogue. Sometimes the inner dialogue is great because, for example, you have a deliverable and you're tempted to watch an episode on Netflix. And then your inner dialogue is, are you sure that's the best use of your time right now? You have a deliverable that's due. Why don't you complete that first? And then if there's time, you watch that episode that you want to watch. So sometimes the inner dialogue is good, but most times the inner dialogue is bad because it makes you doubt yourself. You hear comments like, are you sure you can do this? What makes you think that you deserve it? What makes you think that you can pull this off? Why don't you start small? Why do you want to talk to that person? Are you sure she's going to listen to you? You know, so all those dialogues happen in our minds. And research has shown that we all think about 6,200 thoughts every day. 80% of those thoughts are negative and 95% of them are repetitive. Now, if I were to ask anyone listening to this, how many of your thoughts yesterday do you remember? It would likely be, say, less than 100. But you had 6,200 thoughts going through your mind. And if research has shown that 80% of those thoughts are negative and 95% of those thoughts are repetitive, then that's an area that you should be paying attention to, actually. And so that's why today we're talking about watching your inner dialogue. Because you need to listen to what it is that you're saying to yourself. You need to listen to what it is that's going through your mind. And again, this is important because our thoughts influence our behaviors, and our behaviors determine our outcomes. I'm sure that we've all seen that picture of an elephant tied to a flimsy rope around a chair. Yeah. And then you're wondering,
why can't it move?
You know, does this elephant know that it is an elephant? Strong, powerful. What things have happened? In the past, it was likely tied to that chair when it was little, and it had tried at that time to loosen itself, but then find out it just couldn't. And so it had grown up with that mindset. Yeah.
That it couldn't do anything about the situation.
So that's why we need to watch our inner dialogue. What are you saying to yourself? Because it will determine how you show up. It will determine how you speak. It will determine how you perceive life. It will determine how you perceive other people. And then it will also determine your outcome, which is what you want out of life.
So how then can you build your confidence while watching your inner dialogue?
Okay, good question. The first thing I'll say is be aware that there's an inner dialogue. Because many times we just go through life forgetting that there is an inner dialogue. And awareness is the first step. I always preach to my clients awareness as the first step. And awareness is something like you feel yourself hesitating to submit an application that you know that you should submit. At that time, ask yourself, what's going through my mind? So you're moving from being a participator in those thoughts to being an observer of those thoughts. So you're asking yourself what's going through my mind. I remember when one of my mentors invited me to a brainstorming session with some experts in the education space. And for the first few minutes of that brainstorming session, I didn't say anything, which is unlike me. And so I said, this is the time to check what's going on inside. And so I observed my inner dialogue, and I saw that I was thinking thoughts like, do I belong here? These people are experts. They've been here for years. They built a reputation in the education space. So what could I really say that would be like an eureka moment? And I'm being this vulnerable because I want you to realize that it's something that you have to do every day. You never really get to the point where you don't need to watch your inner dialogue anymore. So the first point is self-awareness. And then the second point is questioning those beliefs, those inner dialogues. Right, so when I was self-aware of the thoughts that were going through my mind, I began to question them. The first one was, do I belong here? And I asked myself, is this true? Do I really not belong here? Because if I didn't belong here, my mentor...
In the first place.
If I didn't belong there, I wouldn't be there in the first place. And so I struck that off. I went to the next thought, which was, do I have any contribution to make that would be an eureka moment? And I told myself, contributions that we make are based on the experiences that we have. We're four in that room. I was the only woman, but none of us has the same experiences. So I will make contributions based on the experiences and the expertise that I have. So after being aware of those thoughts, you need to begin to question them. And this is something that I tell my clients to do as a confidence and visibility coach. One of my clients came and her issue was, I find that I don't speak out in meetings. I don't speak up in meetings. And so I was like, why don't you speak up in meetings? And then we had to question, be aware, why don't you speak up? And so she said, okay, because I'm scared that I would say something foolish. Okay, why would you be scared that you'd say something foolish? You've risen to this level in your organization. If they thought you were foolish, you wouldn't have gotten the promotion to this level. For another client is, I don't speak up during meetings. And then we went on this questioning session, and she found that it was because she was the fifth of 6 children, and she grew up hearing, listen to your brother, he's older than you, he knows more. Listen to your sister, she's older than you, she knows more. And so she had grown up with the mindset that people who are older than she is know more. But the first step is always be aware of that inner dialogue. And then question it. Is this real? Is this true? Because if it's not fact-based, then you shouldn't even be thinking about it at all. Is it true? Is it necessary? And does it improve on the silence? Because it's better to have the silence, you know, than to have those thoughts in your mind. And then do what it is that you will do regardless of those thoughts.
So I find all of these really very, really important. However, something comes to mind.
All right.
Distraction. You know, there's one thing about inner thoughts. You might be thinking, as you said, 6,200 thoughts a day. So what is stopping you from, grabbing that item you want is probably just distraction. So here you are in a meeting. You're not speaking up subsequently. Like, because first meeting, you don't speak up. Second meeting, you don't speak up. Third meeting, and people think, oh, she's dumb, or he doesn't have anything up there. But really, it's probably because you're allowing yourself get overwhelmed with life issues. So when people are talking, for example, you're paying attention, or so you think, but then you're thinking of the bills you haven't paid. You're thinking of where the next meal will come from. You're thinking of the request that has been made from the village, making reference to the 6,200 thoughts. So you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that sometimes it's not really because people don't believe they are where they're supposed to be. It might be because they are probably overwhelmed by life's issues as well. That's my thoughts, though.
Okay, and that's a valid thought. That's a valid thought. There's a place for distraction. I mean, we all get distracted every day. But there's a distinction between distraction and a lack of confidence. If you're not speaking up in meetings because you're distracted, then it's how can I pull my mind back to being here?
Exactly.
How can I pull my mind back to being here? And to make that happen, I think it would be, think of what is in it for you. What is the need for me if I speak up in this meeting? What is the need for me if I make valuable contributions at this meeting? So if focus is the issue, bring yourself back. There will be time to think about that. When you're having lunch, when you're having breakfast, you can think about those other things. But while you're here, be mindful and do your best to be present here. But if confidence is the issue, then that's a different conversation where you have to like I said, be aware of those thoughts, question the thoughts, and then do the exact opposite.
I'm bringing this up because for many people, and this is a thing about life, perception is key. Now, you might say to yourself, I'm a confident person, I can do whatever I want to do, I know that I'm intelligent, I know that I'm this, I know that I'm that, but people's perception of you is not the same, because sometimes your inner thoughts have given you a different outlook to them. And that's why I talked about the distraction.
Yeah.
So your mind probably isn't even where it's supposed to be, especially when you're at meetings. There are people are different, and that's why I'm asking you to correct me if I'm wrong. There are some people who function better by sending messages than physical meetings. In such cases, such a person would be said to be, oh, she lacks confidence. She would rather hide behind the keypad. But really, it's probably because the person struggles with collecting their thoughts. Now, if you have a client like that who struggles with collecting their thoughts, putting their thoughts together, being mindful, as you said, how would you handle it?
Okay. The first is prepare for meetings. Many times we go into meetings unprepared because sometimes we have preconceived notions. This meeting is just a waste of time. This should have been an email. I'm not sure I need to be in those meetings. But if you have been designated to sit in that meeting, then be prepared. Many times an agenda is shared ahead of the meeting.
Yeah.
So you have the advantage of knowing in advance what will be discussed at the meeting.
Yeah.
Prepare. So if the topic is stakeholder sensitization, for example, then you want to begin to identify who are the stakeholders. What can we do to better sensitize them? What have we done in the past that didn't work? What have we done in the past that worked? If you prepare like this, what are our competitors doing? Where is the industry going? If you prepare like that, it is unlikely that you will get to that meeting and be distracted because you've done the work preparing and you want to go into that meeting to shine. So preparation, I would say, is the very first step to avoiding distractions and shining at the meeting. Prepare, and then speak up. As much as possible, be the first to speak up, because you also don't want a situation where someone has said what it is that you want to say,
yeah.
and then you're rehashing what someone already said. So be the first to speak up. Listen to other people's contributions and see if you can critique or add to what it is that you're saying. It could also be a question.
Smart people do that.
Yes, they do.
You probably even come without even knowing how to handle it, but you listen carefully and pick points.
And pinpoint. It could also be a question to what someone has said. Someone says something, and then you ask a probing question that makes everybody think,
that's true.
Is this really the way to go? Yeah, so don't just think it has to be my own
opinion,
thoughts.
yeah.
Yeah, it could be leveraging the opinions of other people and asking questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are actually so many ways to look at this, and I'm so glad we had this conversation, because I was trying to also disabuse the fact that, people's beliefs that confidence sometimes is just straight-jacketed. There are actually several things that contribute to it. Thank you so much for your time. Edememe.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm not going to let you go.
Okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we have breakfast for you.
Woo!
Yeah, so we're heading straight to the kitchen right now for breakfast by Chef Ariola.